welcome everybody to our 6th webinar, which is titled NDIS Reviews and Appeals. And I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting. I'm actually in Melbourne, but our presenters are in Perth, so we acknowledge the traditional owners there, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay respect to their elders, past, present and emerging. And I'm really delighted to introduce Rita Kleinfeld-Fowl, who's a senior solicitor with Midlas. And I'll hand you over to Rita now. Rita will be followed by Grace King, and then we'll take questions. So over to you, Rita. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rita Kleinfeld-Fowl, and today I'm wearing 3 hats. So I'm a participant of the NDIS. I also used to be a former planner at the NDIS, and I'm a senior solicitor managing an advocate team, disability advocate team of 8. So in essence, I'm a disability rights lawyer. So hopefully those who have entered into the scheme will have got a plan or had a review planning meeting and everything has been okayed and you're happy with the review and it's been approved. But what happens when you're not happy with the plan? Okay, so there's certain routes that you can go through. So from the date that the plan is approved, if you're not happy with the decision, you can ask for an internal review, which is a review of the decision. So this has to be done within 3 calendar months. So for example, if your plan was approved on the 31st of January, then you must submit your internal review no later than the 30th of January. Okay, so remember 3 calendar months. Now, you need to put this in writing and you need to explain what you are asking for to be reviewed and why you're not happy with the plan. So for example, in our community, some of our participants require odd land interpreters. If you feel that you've not got enough support within the odd land interpreting court funding, then you can ask for this part of the funding to be reviewed. But to back that decision, to back that everything up, you need to obtain an OT report or something that will back that everything up. But hopefully you would have given that information from the start. However, mistakes do happen. And planners are under enormous pressure to be able to get the plan out. And sometimes you can only have an hour and a half for that meeting. So things do get missed and we're all human. So it could be simply as a mistake from the agency, what we call a departmental error, that you can ask for it to be corrected. Or it may be that they've not taken the evidence in consideration, or it may be simply that you've not provided the evidence to back up the need for this support. Okay, so that it's really, really important that you prepare before going into a planning meeting or a review planning meeting. Okay, so what happens then is that the internal review, unfortunately there is a backlog at the moment, but they have had in place for the last 10 or 11 months what you call an early resolution team. Now, this is a team of planners who will look of the previous planner's decision in an attempt to settle the matter, or having to go to an internal review. In some cases, it's quite cost-effective and quick. And in other cases, you have to go through the whole process. So what happens if you're not happy with the decision made at the internal review and it's not in your favour? So the next stage is you have to go to what you call an external review or an external appeal. Now, again, this is time limited. You have 28 days from the date of the decision from the internal review decision. So therefore, you must put this in writing to the AAT, which is the Administrative Tribunal. It is important that you get these time limits in. So remember, 3 months for the internal review and 28 days for the external appeal. Now, having also attended the AAT myself on behalf of clients, they're very accommodating and they're very acceptable to people with disability. But again, you must make sure that all the evidence has been submitted, and the NDIS will also be represented by lawyers, and they will send their evidence. Unfortunately, at this stage, you cannot submit fresh application. You can't submit fresh evidence or fresh application. The reason being is we're challenging the decision of the internal review stage. However, it has been known, again, for the early resolution team to step in and try and obtain a win-win for both the agency and for the client or the participant. So I guess what I'm saying, both as a former planner and also as a lawyer and also working closely with disability advocates, is that in order to avoid going to an internal review, firstly, make sure you have all your evidence in on time. So this means making sure that your coordinator or your therapy, such as the OT and O&M, and any other people that are supporting you within the plan to submit their evidence. In addition, there's also the issue with our community who are both deaf and blind, and some reviews are being done eastern states, and for example, Melbourne may contact a participant in WA and will ask that a telephone assessment or planning meeting be done over the telephone rather than face-to-face. Now, this is a preference to all those out there, but given that most of us have dual disabilities, I would strongly recommend that you have a face-to-face. Also, make sure you give at least you ask for at least 3 or 4 weeks of notice so that you are prepared and you are able to sit down with your coordinators and therapies and prepare for that meeting. And make sure that you take your coordinator along with you. And if you feel that you can't self-advocate for yourself, go to your nearest community law centre or disability advocacy service who will also support you. Or if you're linked to a deafblind consultant, connect to them. So that's my part for the internal and external review. The next stage is I will talk about complaints. So sometimes participants may go in with their families and they feel that the planner has been inappropriate or not provided enough support or understood, or not communicated well with the participant, and that you feel that you have the right to complain. Of course you do. You do have the right to complain, and you mustn't be frightened to do this, because how can you improve the services of the NDIS if there's no feedback? So firstly, you can do your complaint online via the NDIA website. When you're completing your complaint, ensure that you put your NDIS number, your full name and date of birth. Also, make sure you do a good detailed background of the complaint and what you want out of it. And I find it useful that you also ask for a copy of their complaint procedure. So, for example, they are bound by their policies and procedures to respond to you within, for example, 28 days. So please check this for yourself. Now, the next stage is, if you're not happy with your complaint being investigated, or you don't feel that you had a positive outcome, and I do hope that you do, if you're not happy with that outcome, you can then go to the Commonwealth Ombudsman. Now, they're a type of an independent body. They're impartial, and they will look at the evidence of both sides. They will look at the evidence of the NDIS and also look at the evidence of your complaint that you've submitted. So, for example, you may have submitted a complaint and you've never had a response. So therefore, how are you going to prove that you've actually written to them? You can keep a copy of your complaint, but sometimes you forget to do that. You can also go to another route and the freedom of information. Now, if this is too difficult for you to do, again, link into the people that support you, such as community law centres, support coordinators, family, friends, and they will help you to seek the freedom of information that you require. And by law, they are duty bound to provide you with those documents. So I think at this stage, I am open for questions.
It's Meredith speaking. First, we'll hear from Grace. It just works easier with the VRI to hear one speaker and then another. I do have some questions that I'll put through, but we'll hear from Grace now, and then we'll open it up to questions. Thank you so much, Rita. I just wanted to let people know, I think you wear a fourth hat, and that is being the president of Deafblind Western Australians. So it's good for people to know you also wear that hat too.
Thank you.
So if you can, yes, make for Grace and swap spots.
Hey Grace, could you give me your hand?
Yeah, no worries. That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back a little bit to your left.
Great. So, am I good to go? Yep. So my name is Grace King. I am a member of the National Review Team for the National Disability Insurance Agency. I am totally blind, and I'm also a participant in the scheme. And I just want to talk about some changes that have actually happened in the review space. Now, the first change is that you don't have to submit your reviews in writing anymore. You can, and a lot of times it is really actually very helpful for us to have information on what you want in writing. It makes it very clear. But if you can't, or if you don't want to, you're able to go into the office and speak to them, and they can fill out a form for you. You can call up the call center and they can fill out a form for you. So you can, or you can, just talk to your planner or LAC on the phone. They can fill out a form for you. So there are lots of different ways to do this. If you do not submit it in writing or send it in, or even if you do, make sure that you get a reference number for an interaction or the review form itself, so that you know when it was submitted and so that you have proof that it's been submitted. Because for those 90-day reviews, you've got 90 days to do it. So you definitely want to get those numbers and just have them, because that means it's been submitted and it's in the system somewhere. There are two types of reviews. Your review for dissatisfaction of a plan. That means you are not happy with the funds in the plan, you are not happy with the supports that you have been provided. You must do that within 90 days of the plan coming into effect. And if it's done outside of 90 days, we actually are unable to assess that review. We cannot do it. That's it. And it's not that we don't want to, it's that we're unable to do it. So please understand that. Now there's another type of review that you can request anytime. That review is a change in circumstances review. That means that something's changed for you. Maybe you've moved house, moved somewhere independent. Maybe you've got a job. Maybe your hearing or vision has deteriorated, or maybe you've got reports and a new piece of assistive technology has been requested for you that they think might be helpful. That is a change in circumstance review. You can put that in at any time. You can also call that in. You can turn up to the office. You can speak to your LAC or planner, or you can put it in writing. The best thing you can do with any review is to submit as much evidence as you can of the change or of why you're dissatisfied and why something isn't working. Now, what will happen if you submit a change in circumstance review is it goes to a special team, and that team will assess if it is enough of a change in circumstances for you to have a review, or if there's funding in your plan that might already work for it. We'll also check to see if mainstream supports, such as your doctor or somebody in the community or family and friends, might be the best people to help you and not us. Once we do that, you'll probably get a call from possibly two people. The first person will be somebody that might check to make sure you are the person that actually submitted the review and that you want the review to happen. Say if your support coordinator or therapist or family or friends put the review in for you. They will also, if there's any funding in your plan or any other services that might be able to help you, they will talk to you about that. They may also, if a plan review is a dissatisfaction with funding plan review and it's outside of 3 months, they may talk to you about that and see if you want to turn it into a change of circumstance review, if there's any scope for that. The next person that will call you is someone like me, who is a case delegate. Now, we take all the information that the first person gets together for us, and we make a decision as to whether the review is needed or not. If we decide the review is needed, then we send it back to your local region for you to have a face-to-face or phone plan meeting. If it's a really simple change, such as you just wanting to change how you manage your supports, such as agency managing or self-managing, we won't send it back to the region. We'll have somebody do a quick rebuild of your plan for 12 months, and you will not have to have a meeting. But yeah, if either way, if we decide that it is or it isn't needed, unless it's one of those quick reviews, we'll send you a letter and we'll tell you that either you're successful or you're not successful. If you are not successful, you have review rights. Depending on if we are able to make that decision within 14 days, then if we make it within 14 days, you can have an internal review. If we don't make it within 14 days, it automatically becomes a review of a reviewable decision, and you can go straight to the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. The other thing I want to say is that if you are unhappy with your plan, or there's a change of circumstances, don't be afraid to speak up and put in a review. You're not going to get in trouble for putting in a review. Nobody's going to be angry with you for putting in a review. It is okay to put in a review, and this is your right. So please don't be afraid to do it. We're not going to cut you off because you put in a review. That's not how this works. It's not like a service provider or something where you might have gotten treated poorly in the past for putting in a review or a complaint. You'll still be treated the same way. Right, I think that's about all for me.
It's Meredith speaking. Thank you so much, Rita and Grace. We do have a few questions, so there's 2 at least, and I just wanted to let everybody know that Cara is actually joining us from the Philippines today.
Oh, wow.
So that is pretty cool that our deafblind community can join us from wherever they happen to be. So welcome from the Philippines, Cara. Now, I have a question from Lindy. Lindy also emailed me, so I'm going to read both out. I think this will be a good one for you, Grace.
Okay.
It says, I had a phone interview to register for a review of my first plan, and the operator wrote the complaint. This doesn't coincide with what has been said, and I'm not sure that the call centre wrote it up as I said. But now I'm just going to read out the email, which is similar, which says, I recently requested a review and had 2 questions. However, the process seemed only to allow for 1 question, and that required 30 minutes to register. It also depended on the person taking the call writing her interpretation of my query. Apart from some standard tick boxes, I was told that the wait could be up to months and could result in funds being transferred from one budget to another. However, I then spend funds. How can I then spend funds if they may be changed at any indefinite time in the future? So would I then have to repay some spent budget from my own savings? So there's a bit in there. Okay. I'm happy to repeat any of it, Grace, but I'll hand over to you.
I've got it. Okay. So when you have a review request in, keep spending your funds. Keep using your plan. If you are successful at a review, a new plan will be built. So you'll get a brand new plan if you're successful for a review. We have to do that. So that plan will end. You will know when it ends. We will talk to you about that, and you'll be seamlessly transferred to a new plan that we make as a result of that review. So keep spending your money, whatever you do. As for the operator not writing down your queries, look, I'm sorry that happened, but our job in the review team is to clarify your queries and actually figure out what you want. So we will call you and we will talk to you about what you want and see what the actual review is about before we do anything. Nothing is going to happen after that one phone call. You're going to get at least 2 more people. You're going to get, if everything seems really clear and it looks like you've consented to it, you might not get the information gathering phone call. You'll get someone like me. My job is to make sure that I understand why you want that review and to make a decision about it. And then you'll get a face-to-face, if it's a change of circumstances, review with someone in your region. If it's the internal review team, you'll get somebody from the internal review team. It may be a phone, but I would guess in certain circumstances you could request face-to-face. I don't know. I'm not in that team. But we always check. We always figure out what you're asking about.
Okay, thank you. It's Meredith speaking. Thank you so much, Grace. I hope that clarifies things for you, Lindy. If not, feel free to ask for further clarification. I'm just putting in the chat another email question that I got before the webinar, which is, what proof do you have to provide to prove that you are working towards or have achieved your goals?
For a change of circumstances review, it really depends on what the goal is, doesn't it? I mean, if, like for me, one of my goals is to have a clean house and to, you know, live in a clean, well-kept home. I don't really provide proof of it except in my, you know, statement at the end of the year that I might kind of write up that, yes, my cleaner's been coming and she's doing great, thanks. If it is a goal of, you know, speech or an occupational therapy goal of being able to do something, your therapist will write a report and provide information about what progress you are making towards that goal.
It's Meredith speaking. Thank you, Grace. So we can see that Wilma has her hand up. So Craig, can you unmute Wilma so that Wilma can ask her question? And for anybody else that wants to ask a question, to sign their question or voice their question, you just need to click on the raise hand button and we'll see that, and then we can unmute you. So Wilma?
Okay, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a bit confused because Rita was talking about an internal review you had to apply for within 3 months, an external within 28 days. But then Grace mentioned something about something you had to do within a fortnight, and I was wondering, what does that mean?
Oh, okay. So that's a change of circumstance review. And we, the NDIS, have a fortnight to make a decision before it becomes an automatic internal review. That really doesn't have a lot to do with you. It just changes whether, if we say no, you go to an internal review after that, or whether you go to the AAT if you want to appeal it.
Yeah.
You put in a change of circumstances review if something changes for you at any time.
Oh, right. Got it. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Wilma. It's Meredith speaking. So I can't see any raised hands at the moment. You can also type any questions you have in the chat. And I guess, just as always, to remind everybody, they can contact us between the webinars if they have questions later, or if you're watching this after the webinar, watching the recording, and you have questions, you can always email us at deafblind.consultant@census.org.au. So I'll just see if there's any more questions in the chat.
Hopefully we haven't exploded everyone's brains.
It's a lot of concepts to get your head around, and I guess one of the best ways to learn is by doing. So if you're not happy, to put in a review and learn by doing and seeing what the process is that way.
And just to reiterate, it's okay to do that. It's your right to do that. Don't be afraid of it if you're not happy.
It's Meredith speaking again. Even if you don't have questions, if anybody has experience in putting in a review or putting in a change of circumstance that they'd like to share with us, this is a really good opportunity for us to learn from each other. So we're happy to hear about your experiences of how it was.
You know what? I do, and I'm still here. I am alive. I have done this. I have lived to tell the tale. It's okay. And guess what? I work there and nobody even treats me differently.
It's Meredith. Thanks for sharing that, Grace. There's a question here that I think is asking about advocacy groups that can assist in other states. So there's MIDLAS in Perth. It's Meredith speaking, and I would probably have to look that up. I don't know of any off the top of my head.
In Perth, in Midland.
So MIDLAS is in Midland in Perth. Thanks, Rita. It's definitely worth contacting your state deafblind groups. So Deafblind Association in New South Wales has certainly been doing a lot of advocacy around the National Disability Insurance Agency. People with disabilities also. So it says People with Disabilities WA in Perth for advocacy as well. Thank you, Kerry. There's Deafblind Australia also who you can contact, and Deafblind Victorians. But if you have a specific query or issue, I guess contact the Deafblind Information Hub, but also do put in a review. It's asking an address for sending in a request for the review with the NDIA. So where do you actually send it in?
If you email inquiries@ndis.gov.au is your entry point.
Thanks. So inquiries@ndis. Okay.
.gov.au is your entry point.
Terrific. Thank you, Grace. And now Deb has her hand up, so we'll unmute you, Deb, so you can speak and show your video.
Thank you. Thanks, Meredith. Deb Cash from Thornley. My question is, if I'm not happy with my plan, do I go to my deafblind consultant?
You go to whoever you want to support you.
It's Meredith speaking. I think that would be a good idea, Deb, to go to your deafblind consultant. But like Grace said, it's anybody you know and trust and that knows you. So it could be a family member, it could be an advocate, could be a deafblind consultant, or if you feel confident, go direct to the NDIS yourself. So there's anybody.
I will go to my deafblind consultant directly.
It's Meredith. I think that's a good idea, Deb.
Thank you, Meredith.
Mm-hmm. It's Meredith speaking. So I don't think there's any other questions in the chat or any other hands raised, but we'll give it a bit more time. I'm just wondering, Rita, now that Grace has spoken, if there's anything.
Yeah, I'd just like to add something.
Yeah. I'll switch for you.
Grace, sorry, just to the left. To your left, Grace.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Rita.
Sorry. Left hand side. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Just hands. Yeah, you want to squeeze in here? Sure. I don't know where we're sitting. That's right. Well, you can say the other side of the room.
Hi everybody, it's Rita again. Yeah, so look, you know, any form of a legal process or a complaint process can be really, really stressful. So I can't say how much that, you know, you link into a disability advocate service, or you get in touch with the Deafblind Hub and get that support. You know, and I think the big issue is that the NDIS is like a newborn baby, and it's now 6 years old, and it's now a toddler, and it's running all over the place, and different things are happening and things are changing. But what you've got to think about is you know, in the future, it will be much better. And the scheme is there to build capacity and to make you, you know, hopefully make you independent as much as possible. But, you know, mistakes do happen, whether, you know, you haven't given that information, or, you know, the planner got it wrong. You know, you have got that process. You can go through the internal review, you know, or you can ask for a change of circumstances, which is also called an early plan review or an unscheduled plan review. So, you know, if mistakes do happen, it can be rectified. And, you know, it's not a battle. It's not a battle. You know, with the NDIS, they are there to help us. But the big thing is that you have to communicate your needs. And sometimes, even as a planner and as a lawyer, you know, people don't always get their story across. You know, people might go in and say, "Oh yeah, you know, on a good day, I have a really good day," but they don't tell you what happened on a bad day. You know, and unfortunately, I don't really want to paint it like that. But if you don't tell them what you need, you're not going to get it. So when you do then get your plan and you're disappointed about what the funding is, you can't always blame it on the planner. Sometimes it's the miscommunication. And sometimes that person might not have the support of a deafblind consultant or have an OT. So, you know, the more evidence you've got, the more preparation you do, the better the outcome. And, you know, hopefully you won't have to go to an internal review. You know, so you make sure that if you need an Northland interpreter, make sure you've got one at the meeting. If you go to your planning meeting and there's not one booked or it's been cancelled, don't go ahead with the meeting because you're not going to have a good outcome. You can't, for those who knew Northland interpreters, you can't communicate with a pen and paper. Cancel the meeting and make sure you have an Northland interpreter with you. And these are all things that you can do to avoid going to an internal review and then an external appeal, which are very stressful. You know, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that the NDIS is there for everybody, but it's got to be sustainable, and it's got to be sustainable for everybody. But it's an individual plan built for your needs. So I'm deaf and blind, but my needs are totally different, say, from Wilma's or Deb's. You know, we all have different needs. We are a unique group. And I think that's why we're pretty not well understood. Or I wouldn't say excluded, but I don't think there's enough experience around deafness and blindness. Because it's a dual disability, they don't really recognise us as deaf and blind standard. Blind or deaf, but there's no deaf blind, and sometimes you really have to highlight that. When you go into your planning meeting or your review meeting, highlight that. And that's me for today. Enjoy your afternoon.
It's Meredith speaking. Thank you, Rita, so much. Especially, I know you've delayed a holiday to be with us here today. So we're really grateful that you've done that and spent the time with us. I did just want to remind everybody, you can share your screen to sign your question. If you would like to use sign language, we'll be able to see you signing your question. And you can Alt-Y on the keyboard. That will raise your hand and let us know that you're wanting to speak or sign your question. So Alt-H to type a message in the chat, or Alt-Y on the keyboard to put your hand up and let us know you've got a question or a comment. So maybe, Rita, if you can wait a minute or two and just see if we have any final questions or comments.
You could sing, Grace.
Sorry?
You could sing, Grace.
I could.
Also,
most people would probably not actually be
I'll carry on talking, and then if anybody raises a hand, then you can stop me, Meredith.
Okay.
So, look, also, there's also another side of of having to do an internal review or an external review. So one of the things, and it is sort of overlapped, but one of the things, say for example, somebody can no longer live at home, and the agency is saying, well, it's value for money for you to go into a group home or the new living options, and you're not happy with that, you can still put an internal review in. You can also put what you call an Australian Human Rights Commission complaint. Now, these are basic human rights which can run alongside your internal review. So, basic human right is the right to have your own home, the right to have a family life, the right to work, the right to respect, the right to dignity. All these are basic human rights. So you can lodge a complaint, and it has to, if you feel that you have been discriminated and you feel that they are not accommodating your disability, or for example, you know, you arrive at a meeting and you discover that there's no Auslan interpreter there, and the planner said, okay, well, we'll have the meeting with pen and paper. And then we'll do the meeting and we'll communicate with pen and paper. Now, we all know that Auslan, deaf people who are non-oral and use Auslan, interpret Auslan, that is their first language, and English is their second language. So sometimes the English is, you know, and this is not a reflection on anybody out there listening, but it's not as good as their Auslan. But the planner can't sign or do Auslan language. So there may be a miscommunication with pen and paper by communication with pen and paper. And then what happens is the plan gets built and it's reviewed, and then the person who is deaf says, I'm not happy with this plan. I didn't ask for that. I asked for 100 hours of course support with Auslan interpreting support, for example, and you've only been given 40. Now that's the miscommunication, but it's also a disability discrimination on the part of the agency. Now, this could be so innocent that it could be indirect discrimination, and it's been done without any intention, and it could be that, you know, mistakes have happened, the planners or the participants may not want to cancel the meeting, and the meeting, for whatever reason, had gone ahead, and unfortunately, no reasonable adjustment had been made. But the person does have a right to put a claim in. So there's different ways of also looking at your human rights. But please do not get them confused with the internal review or the complaint procedure, because the complaint procedure is about the way the planner may treat you or might be rude. Totally different to a disability discrimination matter or a human rights matter. Hope I haven't confused anybody.
It's Meredith speaking, Rita. There's a comment here from Leanne. We are currently waiting on a decision for a review that we are not happy with, and today has been really helpful to better understand the process. Thank you, everyone. I feel encouraged after this. So that's nice, positive feedback. Thank you, Leanne. Karen, was there anything you wanted to add, or anything that's been missed, or any experiences you've had with reviews?
No, I added a couple of questions that have been addressed. I think just to reiterate, to encourage people to not be afraid of their review process. Get some support to help you do it. Whoever helped you write your plan, prepare for your plan, they can support you to put in your application to review. It's not hard. You've just got to type up a few notes, then you send it off and you wait. I've supported lots of people to do it. Send it off, wait for an outcome. If we say nothing, it's like saying, oh, that's okay, all right, I don't need it, I accept it. We can't do that. We have to keep advocating, we have to keep fighting to ensure that people who are deafblind are getting the supports that they need. And this is one way that we can do that. So if you're not happy, appeal, 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 appeal.
And I should like, it's Rita here, I should like to add to that. You know, even if at the internal review you might think, oh, you know, I do not want this stress. But, you know, if you have ground and you've been advised that you've got ground to go to external to the AAT and you win your case, then you're going to create what you call case law. And that means case law is legally binding on any other cases that comes after yours.
Yeah.
So you will be the landmark to make changes for other people who are facing the same problem that you have had in your experience. So it's not a negative thing, it's about making good changes and putting benchmarks down to make those changes. And eventually, the Law Commissioner will look at the legislation and will look at all the AAT cases coming through and the internal reviews and maybe say, well, the law needs changing. And that's how you can make the changes, by putting positive feedback in. Thank you.
It's Meredith speaking. Thank you, Rita. That's a really good point. It just occurred to me, I think it's really useful to share experiences and learn from each other. And there is a Facebook page called Deafblind Australia and the NDIS. So even sharing your experiences there about reviews, so other people hear how you did it if you do have a go with a review. So people start to learn from each other and can see that others are doing it. I think sometimes we feel more confident if we know that others have done it as well and been successful. Okay, last chance, Alt-Y to put your hand up, or Alt-H to type a question, or just click in the chat box. I think we might be nearly there. No final questions or comments. We don't have a date for our next webinar. I'm in the process of speaking to a few potential presenters, but still trying to confirm presenters. So as soon as I've done that, I'll be emailing and putting on Facebook the date for the next webinar. We're not quite sure of the topic either, but I'll certainly be keeping everyone that was here this evening posted. Your names will all be on the mailing list, but also I'll be posting it on Facebook. So I'm just checking one last time for hands or comments. I can't see any. So, sorry. Oh, Craig said there is a hand up. Sorry, Deb has her hand up. Okay, Deb, we'll bring you across. They're ready.
My new question is, I just recently had my NDIS meeting and I hadn't heard anything yet.
Oh, okay, Deb. When did you have your meeting?
17th September 2019, and it's the 2nd of October now.
Right, okay. Well, sometimes it goes, and Grace might be able to help you with it. It goes by case, doesn't it, Grace?
It does. Look, if you've got, do you have an LAC or a planner? Who did your meeting?
I had an LAC.
So I would just contact your LAC and ask them how it's going.
So, Deb, what you need to do is, whoever you had the planning meeting with, or whoever whoever
Plan
your
meeting
planner or
With
your
an LAC.
LAC,
Before I finish talking.
local area coordinator,
correct.
get in touch with them, or whoever went with you. And I'm assuming one of the deafblind consultants went with you.
Yes, the blind consultant was with me.
Okay. Well, maybe, you know, give it a few more days, because, you know, have some time doing a plan too quick. It's not always a good thing. So maybe they're really, really looking at your evidence there and making sure that the plan is right for you. But I wouldn't be too worried yet, as Grace said.
Not time to worry yet.
Yeah.
But if you want some reassurance, get in touch with your LAC and they can tell you what's going on.
It's Meredith speaking. Thanks for that question, Deb, and your responses, Rita and Grace. So Jennifer has her hand up. Craig, can you bring Jennifer across?
Can I sit on something?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I actually follow an NDIS website, and a common issue that seems to come up.
Sorry, can we hold just Ivy?
Ivy, just behind you. Grace, thanks.
Sorry, Jennifer, we're just moving seats.
Sorry, Jennifer, can you repeat, please?
No, that's okay. I actually follow an NDIS website, and I have noticed what comes up a lot is that when people have their plan submitted, they actually aren't getting notification from the NDIS or NDIA that it's been accepted and the funds are actually in their accounts, and they're left sort of unknowing what's going on. Is this common practice in the NDIS, or is this something they haven't bothered with at this point?
No, that's not the intent.
Keep checking the portal.
But that's not the intent. You should be notified when your plan is approved. I've heard things where people have not been notified, but common practice is to let you know.
Okay, thank you.
It's Meredith. Thanks a lot, Jennifer. Okay, I'm looking for hands again. And just a reminder, you can sign your question. Okay, nothing in the chat, no hands up. Well, thank you again to our speakers, Rita and Grace. It's been really valuable, and it's nice to get the feedback already that it's been certainly valuable to Leanne. And stay tuned. We'll keep you posted for when the next webinar will be. And thanks again to everybody who comes along to these. It's nice to see new faces each time, or some new names and some familiar names. So yeah, we'll finish up there. And thanks again. Thanks to Susie and Esther for interpreting, and thanks to Lee for the captions.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.